So doing business face-to-face is easier. But when you're online, how can you spot the buying signals within Zoom calls and Teams calls, Google Meet calls that make it more challenging for you to do business with prospects? In this video, I'm going to share with you 9 simple tips that you can use when you're in an online call or even a telephone call to make sure that you can spot the signals and take the action that you need to turn that cold prospect into a warm bit of business for you. My name is James White. I help businesses and salespeople get great sales results by being able to understand what sales is all about. So let's look at the 9 signals that can help turn those meetings that you have into challenging conversations into brilliant sales discussions that lead to business. The first point is this. What you've got to do when you're engaging on a sales call that's an online call is you have to listen to the language being used by people. Especially if this is done on the phone, the way in which people talk about and language is critical. And one of the key drivers behind that is linked into their urgency, for example, to be able to fix an issue. We've got a real pressing problem at the moment, or we want to get this fixed quite quickly. When I'm hearing those things, even if I'm not seeing the person on a Teams call, if the camera's not there, I was on a call the other week with a customer of mine, helping them with their sales team, and the guy on the phone was quite keen. You could tell within other points I'll talk about, but his language talked about, I need to get this fixed straight away. So the reality was, even though we couldn't see him and we could hear him, we knew straight away that actually this was quite a big issue that this guy wanted to resolve. So listen to the language that people use, especially adjectives, urgency, key problem, challenge, deadline. We're looking for those words that can help us indicate actually there is an opportunity here for us to take this forward and move this down. The reality, often we don't have to hear with what we just think we're hearing, we have to listen to beneath the surface, the words, the tonalities I'll talk about in a moment, things that really make a difference in that sales conversation. One of the key things to look out for online is the language that people use, the exact words themselves. So the second point, when it comes to engaging with people online, is the repeated mention of pain. I have a very simple philosophy in sales. POs follow pain. If you've got toothache, you want it fixed. You do not care, especially how bad the toothache is, you want it fixed. And if you're getting continual mentions of pain and challenge and issues and problems and discomfort and unhappiness, it's a surefire signal whether you can meet the person face to face or not, that there is a potential opportunity to do some business. The realities of pain, or the thought of pain, if people want to be able to make people do things, it makes people change. It ultimately makes them decide to look at different paths, even if they've not met you before. If you can start to ask questions around the pain, what's the implication of the pain? How long has this pain been going on? What's caused this pain to happen? What's the impact of this pain? What's the impact of this issue? And they talk about those elements and you start to explore that with people, then you'll start to see the conversations go very well and people will be warm to you to want to know what you can do to fix that pain. The repeated mention of it, continually talking about the impact that it has, it's a surefire sign that it's a buyer intent from the person, online or offline. So the third point is this. What I look for when I'm engaging with a buyer online is their constant questions related to pricing and ROI. If someone's asking me a question, what does this cost? What's the implication of this? How would I generate a return on this? What's the timeline? How can we pay? What it indicates to me is that they're going through a journey in their head that's past the start point, which is this even a solution for me, through to how could this be implemented? Is this a feasible option in my business? It's a buyer intent. It's an online signal that tells me that something's going on in their mind that makes someone ask that question. And not always is it a guarantee. Alongside all the other elements, we've got to package them all together. But it's certainly going to give you an indication that something's that they want to change and do. And again, when we engage meeting with people face to face, we can sometimes see these things. When we meet them online, we've got to listen out for the things that we can't see face to face, and that's one of those areas related to pain and pricing and what does it look like, how can it be involved, maybe conversations around contracts and what does the contracts look like. Those are all signals that make you think, yeah, we're onto something here. Point number 4 is this. You must observe their tone of voice. I talk to salespeople a lot about don't have happy ears. Salespeople that have happy ears are the people that listen to what they think they're hearing but don't really hear the meaning of what's being said under the voice or the real feelings that people have. Are they showing frustration in the way in which they express certain words? It's been a real challenge for us to get that resolved. The word challenge being emphasised. Or we thought we'd found a solution. In other words, we thought we had an answer to something. Look for those inflections in words around the way in which someone says something, and it can make you realise that actually that word itself was their hope or their challenge that can make you think there's something more to this. We've got to listen out to tonality. I'm a massive believer that salespeople that can control their own tone, but also listen out to the tone of the individuals they engage with, are on the path to great success. It's one of the key elements of emotional sales intelligence. If you can read and watch the reactions and that people get you, and hear what they're really thinking, even though they're not going to say what they're thinking, you're a step ahead. Chris Voss in his book, Never Split the Difference, talked about counterfeit yeses. People don't want to lie to you, but they just don't want confrontation. So it's easier to tell you a lie than it is to be honest with you. And sometimes that happens, for example, in personal situations. I've told the story lots of times when I've gone back and said to my wife, I want to do something. And she said, yeah, that's okay. It doesn't really mean okay. You've got to listen to the tone and what's going on. So is there a tone of frustration? Is there a tone of happiness? Listen out to what people hear, what people are saying to you, not just in the words they say, but in the way they say it. Point number 5 is building on point number 4. Watch for the body cues, both positive and negative. Great salespeople are able to read the body language. And of course, this relies on you having a Teams call or a Zoom call with someone's camera on. But can you read the signals and the signs that people give off? For example, maybe they're disinterested in looking elsewhere because they're bored of hearing your pitch or story. Or maybe they're in a position where they're looking up and thinking like this. I'm going to put a link to a video that I did on 6 or 7 body language signs that you should look out for. For example, people rubbing their neck or rubbing their eyes, or for example, being in a defensive mode. You've got to look out for those signals, both positive and negative, to know what's happening. And the positive ones that I look for are when people are considering or they're leaning in. Okay, tell me more about this solution. I'm keen to hear more about it. They're intrigued, they're engaged in the conversation. It's a positive bias sign that says they're hearing stuff they like and they want to carry the conversation going. But listen out for their tone, but watch the reactions that people give you. It's a skill that's so important in selling, and if you can master this and know when they're being positive and negative, it can help you know when to shut the conversation down and move on to another lead, or take that prospect forward to hopefully meeting with them and doing business with them. Point number 6, building on the first 2, is also related to track the speakers and the relationships that are in the room, especially if you're engaging with multiple people in a call. I'm always looking for who's talking to who, where's the conversation, who's leading what. I was on a discussion yesterday of a Teams call with a business owner, and it was very clear to see they were quite reverent to their consultant they brought in. The business owner, who you would think would be the decision maker, was really looking up to the consultant for advice and guidance. That was their consultant, mentor, person they were going to talk to. And in many cases, the salesperson might have thought that's the business owner I've got to talk to, and the consultant's irrelevant. And it's actually the other way around. The consultant was the person that held the purse strings. So watch for the way in which people start to interface and interact with each other. Is one person being quite reverent to the other, or maybe being a bit dismissive of the other? Maybe someone's not taking their views on board, and maybe it means that you thought that person was key in the sales process, and maybe they're not. They're not going to be a key factor in what happens. Try and also understand who's trying to generate consensus. Who in that team call or in that meeting are trying to pull people together, and who potentially could be the outliers and the difficult people, the people that could be a roadblock or an obstacle, and the people that are going to support your implementation. It's really good to understand those relationships and how they operate. And again, it's a skill in selling. If you can spot that and see where your detractors could be and your supporters could be, you can then build plans to solve those and help get those supporters and champions to really take you forward and move that deal on to the next level. You've got to be able to look across the whole board in these calls for tonality, reaction, and the way in which people operate, and the way in which they give away their body language and their behaviours. It's going to be a simple sign to help you know what's going to happen from an online perspective. Point number 7 is this. We want to be able to listen to the commitment that people give to us in terms of signals. And again, we talked about urgency earlier on, but around timelines. What's the commitment? How committed are they to wanting to do things? Where does this fit within their priority list? When we were asked the questions around where does this fit in the priority list, or how would it be, what would be the impact if this was still the issue in 3 months' time, you can start to tease out for people what they really want to do and their commitment to making this happen. A great question to ask is, what else could come in and take precedent over this? Or what else could get in the way of this project? Try and find out what their commitments are to those elements. You can't maybe see them, but if you can find out their timelines that they're working to and listen to the tonality behind it, it's going to give you an insight that's going to help you move things forward. Point number 8, which also builds on the conversation that we had around listening to people's reactions. It's watch and notice the objections, the hesitations, the initial reaction. Maybe you'll talk about a scenario and someone might say, oh yeah, there's a potential issue we've got with that over here, or oh, we tried that before and it didn't work, or we've got to deal with that person because X, Y, and Z can be sometimes a challenge. Understand and notice those objections. Don't just bypass them and think, oh, that will be irrelevant. Write them down in red so you've got red flags associated to them. And what are the things that could stop your deal from moving forward? Again, it's easier to sometimes see this face to face, but if you're online, people will tell you through the way they talk and the way they share information as to what's frustrating them and what could cause them problems. Because no one wants to invest in a solution that then doesn't deliver the end result. The key thing is the initial reactions, the visceral reaction, the gut feel can sometimes be a huge factor in knowing whether the deal is going to go forward. Maybe when you talk about a contract length and someone says, oh, we don't like to work with contracts of that type or that size or that length. Don't just think, oh, I can overcome that. Be aware that it's an objection you're going to have to overcome and deal with. It's something that could stop you from winning the deal. So the real reality is objections aren't a roadblock. They don't stop you from winning the deal, but if you don't handle them effectively, they will. They will cause you problems and they will stop you from doing what you need to do. And the final point, when it comes to online signals to look out for in sales calls, is to really make sure that you summarize and confirm the understanding and expectations. Whether it's face-to-face or online, get clarity. I have a video I'm going to link to called my LAPS model, which is all around how you can utilize the first call to listen, ask, probe, and summarize. And the summarization at the end of a meeting is so critical. I've really enjoyed meeting you today, Chris, and chatting through some of the key things you want to do. And what I've summarized from our conversation is this, and this. Have I confirmed it? Have I missed anything? You want to get the other side to own that. You want to get them to be committed to it. You want to make sure that they feel, yeah, those are the issues that are on our to-do list that we want to get fixed. That's what we want to make happen. And you've got to make sure that they've got clarity on what the understanding of the next stage is. If you can then suggest the next follow-up meeting or conversation, they should want to commit to that. And if they don't want to commit to it, it should send a warning signal to you. I'd like to follow up our conversation by arranging to speak on Thursday at 2 p.m. to talk about the next stages. How would that time fit for you? And if they don't want to give you that commitment, it should send some warning signals that the conversation hasn't gone as well as you thought. So the reality, summarize the next steps. And even if you have to use that tactic at the end of saying, let's get a date and time in the diary, even if it means that we're not going to work together, at least it means we've got a conversation in plan and you can tell us what you think. If it's a no, we respect and understand that, but hopefully we can move things forward if we can help you. It confirms the next stage and it gets the buyer committed to that step with you. So those are the 9 stages. Those are the 9 tips that are key. Really about observing and watching out for body language. Listening out to the words that people will say and the mention of pain and the questions that they ask you. And if you do follow those 9 steps and make sure that you put those elements in place, you can get to a position where you can turn those online meetings into positive meetings that generate business for you. Online calls is the way the modern world is doing things now. People don't want to meet as much face to face. But if we do that, and we have to do online meetings, be in tune with yourself and in tune with the prospects and what they're doing and how they're doing things. Don't walk headlong into problems. Be astute, listen effectively, don't have happy ears, use your emotional sales intelligence to build a rapport and understanding. It's going to help you get the right result. I hope this video has helped you. If it has, please like and subscribe to the channel, share it with others. Let's get loads of salespeople and business owners all over the world getting the sales results they need. If you have enjoyed it, please subscribe to the channel, share it with other people so we can help more people do what they need to do. Well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon on another video.